Gridiron Central is sponsored by Georgia Northwestern Technical College, Riverside Automotive Group.
Welcome to Gridiron Central. We started this journey with you more than 16 weeks ago. We will end it Saturday afternoon in the Georgia Dome as Calhoun and Ridgeland will both be playing for state titles. Joining me, as always, my tag team partner this year and the previous two, Matt Davis, the voice of football from 95.7 The Ridge. Had to do the fist bump. Of course, basketball season is on us right now. He's talking basketball all over the radio. Matt, it has been a long season. What are you expecting Saturday?
Oh, I think it's going to be a lot of fun because actually this will be the first year that I've ever gotten to go to the Dome to watch the game. I just haven't been able to work it into my schedule the last several years that Calhoun's made it down there. So I'm really excited about this year, more so than any other year, because I get to go see these games. And I'm not only going to go see the one, watching Calhoun take on Jefferson, I'm also going to stay and watch the Ridgeland game. And that is going to be an interesting game as well, I think, too. So I get two games for the price of one. And then if I can talk my wife into it, maybe we'll stay for the game that's at the end of the night, because that one's going to be a pretty good game too. So it's going to be a great day of football. And, of course, games on Friday. I wish I could go just stay the whole weekend and watch every one of them. But that's not going to work. But I think it's going to be an interesting day for sure.
Definitely so. And, of course, Cartersville lost to Buford last week, or else we would have been on the Dome Friday for the AAA game with Cartersville. Unfortunately, Buford won. Buford will be in that game. I predict Buford's going to beat them. I don't even care who they're playing, in all honesty. Talking about the AA state title game, Calhoun versus Jefferson. Of course, Calhoun 14-0 in the season, 29-game winning streak entering the contest. Jefferson 13-1. They're on a 13-game winning streak entering the contest. Their one loss was to Class A Commerce in the first game of the season last week. Jefferson laid the beat down on Greater Atlanta Christian, beating them 42-14. Jefferson is attempting to win its first state title ever. Last week, Calhoun beat Lamar County 21-14 in a game I covered that was a very, very close game, one of the closest games I've seen Calhoun play in a long time. This is Calhoun's fifth straight AA state title game. Of course, last year they won in overtime against Buford. The last loss by Calhoun was in the Georgia Dome in 2010, the AA state finals in overtime to Buford. Talking about Jefferson, one of the key players that Calhoun's going to have to account for is the dual threat quarterback, Bryant Sheriffs. Last week rushed for 128 yards, threw for 141 against Greater Atlanta Christian. Calhoun last week, big highlights from Alex Urbano, who rushed for 160 yards, a couple touchdowns in the win over Lamar County. Matt, what do you think about the game?
You know, here's my first thoughts on this game. You know, the week before the Lamar County game, Calhoun arguably had their most complete game of the year when they absolutely wore out Brooks County. Then, fast forward to the Lamar County game, they had one of their worst games, and things just did not go their way like they normally do, particularly on offense, because, you know, Calhoun leading up to that game had scored 34 or more points in every single game. They only scored 21 points against Lamar County. To me, that should make Jefferson really nervous for this game. I guess one theory would be that might say, hey, we've got some hope in this game. But I think it does the opposite, because as consistent as Calhoun has played on offense, I would not expect that at this point of the season their offense just falls apart unless one of the key ingredients, like their quarterback Taylor Lamb, got hurt, and then you may be looking at a different situation. I think they pull everything back together for this game. I think Jefferson's going to be a tough opponent. One of the things that I was going to ask you about, you may know more about this than me, I noticed that Jefferson's only loss this season, like you mentioned, was Commerce. Commerce this year, they were 5-6, and then they were 1-5 in their region. What is the deal with that?
You know, Commerce had a rough year. Yeah. I think that's just the general feeling about it. And you look at Jefferson, and everybody saw that early season loss to Jefferson. And number one, I think Commerce thought they were a lot better than they were when they beat Jefferson. And whether they had injuries or whatnot, I'm not sure. But you look at Jefferson, I think they improved a lot over the course of the season. I don't think they have played, except in the playoffs, the kind of quality opponents that Calhoun has played, though.
No, I don't think so either. They reel off 13 wins after that loss, have a great season, give them a lot of credit for that. You mentioned earlier they've never had a state championship. Yeah. Well, they have played for one. That was back in 1977. And so the reason I bring that up is these kids have zero experience playing in the Dome, playing for this game. Yeah. They weren't even born yet when their team last played for a state championship.
Well, I was only 5 in 1977, so I barely remember 1977.
So the point being, Calhoun, this is their 5th straight appearance at the Dome, playing for this particular game. This is old hat. You got players on this team that have been there every year of their 4 years, excuse me. And so even if they didn't play, they got the experience of being there. They saw what it takes, to get to that game. And then last year, finally, they got over the hump and won the game. I put experience up against inexperience in this game. I think Calhoun's going to be ready for this. I think last week, it was kind of troubling that they couldn't get everything, all the pieces working together like they normally able to do. But I think since that happened last week, like I mentioned earlier, that consistency on offense comes back. I think they're going to score a lot of points, and I think this will be an interesting game. But in the end, I still think Calhoun will win by 3 touchdowns. I really do.
Yeah, and you talk about last week's game, and in all honesty, it was Lamar County's coaching staff did a phenomenal job defensively against Calhoun. Basically what they did is they put Lamar County hadn't played man-to-man coverage all year long. They came in the game playing strict man-to-man bump coverage, press coverage, dropping a defensive back 30 yards, 25 to 30 yards off the line to help, with a double team or whatnot. Calhoun didn't have anybody open. None of their receivers could get open, so they ran the ball. And and Coach Lamb after the game said we could run against them, but this was a good team. They weren't able to get the breaks they needed. Going into halftime, Calhoun was up 21-7, got the ball to start the second half. They fumbled the kickoff, put themselves back in deep position, couldn't get anything going there. Later in the second half, had 4th and goal from the 1 yard line. A fumbled snap kept them from scoring a touchdown. Another time, a receiver in the end zone. It would have been a tough catch to make, but a catch that they made last week against Berks County doesn't make a catch. Calhoun, in all honesty, probably should have won the game by a couple of touchdowns, but Lamar County played a heck of a football game. Of course, Calhoun had to intercept in the end zone at the end of the game. It was more of a desperation pass. It wasn't really that close, but Calhoun really had to come back. And after the game, talking to it, Coach Lamb said a couple of things I thought were interesting. The first thing he said was, I wouldn't have thought we would play one of our worst games of the year and still be able to get to the state championship game. Other thing he said, and I guess I hadn't realized it in the grand scheme of things, is Calhoun only had 4 or 5 starters coming back from last year's state championship team. To only have 4 or 5 starters come back and go undefeated and get back to the Dome is quite an accomplishment, quite a feat. 3 things in the game. Number 1, Lamb. Taylor Lamb is going to be one of the biggest keys in this game. He is 29-0 as a starter for Calhoun. In the game against Buford last year, I've said this time and time again, he made phenomenal decisions. When Lamb is on his A game, which is almost every single game, he's very difficult. Jefferson is going to have to pretty much do what Lamar County did and hope they can keep. If they can limit Calhoun's passing game, Jefferson's got a chance. If Calhoun gets the passing game going, it's done. Calhoun's defense, account for Bryant Sheriffs on every play, the quarterback from Jefferson. I'm not saying Jefferson's a one-man team because they're not, but he's a very dynamic player. But let's be real honest, this is the 3rd dual-threat quarterback in a row that Calhoun has seen. I think the defense is going to be able, I'm not saying shut them down, I believe they're going to be able to limit them. I think Calhoun's offense is going to be going. And the last thing is, do what you do. If Calhoun plays Calhoun football, dictates the game, which is something they couldn't do against Lamar County. Lamar County kind of dictated that game. Calhoun dictates the game, the pace of the game. They play their game. Calhoun will be 30-0, become only the 8th or 9th team, good Lord, in GHSA state history to have back-to-back 15-0 seasons. I'm saying it here. I think Calhoun wins by at least 10. Captures another state title. Of course, we will be at the Georgia Dome on Saturday, bringing you all the action, live scoring updates on PrepCentralOnline.com. And before, as we head to commercial break, here are some quick clips and some highlights from Calhoun's 2012 season so far.
these kids, because, we're going back to the Dome for the 5th time in a row, and, I can't say enough about this community and this coaching staff and this football team, because there's a lot of people that didn't think we'd be here, to be honest with you.
Begin your future at Georgia Northwestern Technical College. We offer degrees, diplomas, and certificates in over 200 programs of study. Choose a career in business, health, industrial, or public service. With the flexibility of day, evening, and online classes at any of our 5 campus locations, getting your education at GNTC has never been more convenient. There are many financial aid options available, including student loans. Apply now. Georgia Northwestern Technical College. Your college, your town, your future.
Welcome back to the show. We always like to thank our sponsors, Georgia Northwestern Technical College and Riverside Automotive Group, for helping us bring you this show in its 6th season. Another game to talk about, one of two, first time in Gridiron Central's existence of 6 years that we've had 2 teams reach the Georgia Dome. It almost happened a couple of times. It did happen this year. Ridgeland, 13-1 versus Sandy Creek, 14-0. This is the matinee game, if you will, for our coverage. The game exactly after the Calhoun game for the Quad A state title. Sandy Creek, the odds-on favorite. Everybody and their cousin believes they will win the state title. Ridgeland, the chippy underdogs with a lot of athletes hoping to keep this magical season going. Ridgeland's only loss in the first game of the season to Calhoun. Ridgeland has run off 13 straight wins, including last week's dramatic win against Marist, where Ridgeland had some huge plays, a couple of big halfback passes from Darrell Bridges, found pay dirt, and of course Marist, Ridgeland blocked an extra point by Marist, and Marist's kicker, what would have been the game-winning field goal, bounced off the uprights and bounced out, meaning Ridgeland goes to the Dome, Marist goes home. Sandy Creek last week beat Monroe area 35-0. Monroe area had 2,000-yard rushers on that team. Sandy Creek held them total to 117 total yards. Sandy Creek is only giving up, averaging 8 points a game in the playoffs, led by quarterback Cole Garvin, wide receiver Damari Kidd as well. Last week, Garvin had 207 yards passing. Really, when you look at this game, everybody and their cousin thinks Sandy Creek's going to win. They have a ridiculous shutdown defense. Their offense can score lots of points. Matt, can Ridgeland pull the upset here?
I think Ridgeland, I don't think it's out of the question that they could pull the upset. But the bottom line on this game is they are going to have to play the most complete, perfect game they've ever played to win this game. They absolutely will have to, because this team is so used to winning. They've won some state championships in recent times. They are known for churning out top quality players. One notable person that went to school there and played football is Calvin Johnson, who plays for the Detroit Lions, went to Georgia Tech. They have a lot of football players there. They're going to have a ton of talent on the field. And not only that, when you look at their semifinal game, they dominated 35-0. Ridgeland just barely squeaked by. There's some areas for concern in this game. The biggest thing for me, and you touched on this, the defense for Sandy Creek is dominant. They are killer. They're giving up only 9 points per game on average. There's only been 2 occasions this entire season out of all the games they've played where teams have been able to score them more than 20 points on them, 20 or more. And so they've been shutting offenses down. When you look at these teams offensively, their numbers match up pretty decently. Both teams are scoring over 40 points a game on average, pretty close there. But the one striking difference, like I mentioned, is that defense. Because Ridgeland has had a good defense, but I wouldn't say they're great. They're giving up on average about 17 points per game, and they've had some success, but not the type of success that you've seen from a Sandy Creek. So in this game for me, unfortunately, I'm going to go with Sandy Creek. I think they're the more solid pick here. But with some heroics and everything falling into place at the right time, I do think Ridgeland could pull the upset. but I just think that's a little far-fetched. I just don't think they're quite to that level yet. But, hey, let's face it, even if they lose this game, it's going to be disappointing in the beginning, and that'll be something that'll take some weeks to get over, to get over. But at the same time, you got to look at what this team has accomplished this year that this school, in terms of football, has never been able to accomplish in the past. They've never made it past the second round. And so they made it to the quarterfinals, the semifinals, and the state finals. And those things they have not been able to do up until this year. So to me, they're not going to be hanging their heads for too long after this game is over. They've accomplished a lot. But nonetheless, I think Ridgeland's going to end up losing this game, and that will be it. But nonetheless, I'm going to be there, and I'm going to be rooting them on. I hope they find a way to make my pick incorrect.
Well, normally I'm the negative Nelly when all this is said and done, but I may go the opposite direction simply because I look at Ridgeland. I think Ridgeland's a great team. Without a doubt, you make the state finals in Quad A, you are a great team. Phenomenal year, lots of good players. And what I look at is this, is that Ridgeland is a very athletic team. Ridgeland has found ways to win football games. They should have lost to Marist. They didn't. They found a way to win that game. Ridgeland's been pressed in the playoffs. Ridgeland's been pressed in the regular season. Sandy Creek, not so much. I don't know exactly how it's all going to play out, but here's my guess. Ridgeland's going to come into this game. They're going to punch Sandy Creek in the mouth. They're going to hit them hard. Von Bell is going to try to shut down Damari Kitt, the wide receiver. They're going to go on him hard. They're going to do some things. Darrell Bridges, you're going to see some more halfback passes out of him. Ridgeland's going to pull out every possible stop they can. Sandy Creek, they're used to winning. If the plucky Panthers can get in there, cause some problems, cause some confusion, and not let Sandy Creek just get in there and start just scoring at will, you're going to have a football game. I think Ridgeland can score on Sandy Creek. I really believe they can. Are they going to have as big a numbers we're used to? No. Ridgeland's defense is going to have to play its best game of the season. Ridgeland's offense is going to have to play its best game of the season. They're going to have to force turnovers. Sandy Creek's going to have to make some mistakes. Ridgeland's going to have to keep their mistakes to nothing. Don't ask me why, I just have a feeling. It's not a great feeling. I really believe Calhoun's going to win the state title. I have this little thing in the back of my head saying, you know what, I'm not so sure we don't leave with 2 state championships.
Yeah, the only thing for me is, last week when Sandy Creek beat Monroe area, it's 35-0. They held a team with 2 1,000-yard rushers to only 117 yards. Yes. I just cannot get past that. And I've said all season long, Ridgeland, they've got so many weapons in the backfield. That they may have a few more weapons than Monroe area had, and that may be the difference in this game. So part of me really wants to pick Ridgeland, but like I mentioned earlier, this has got to be a perfect game. They cannot make mistakes in this game. They can't turn the ball over, because if they do, a team that has been successful like this, like Sandy Creek has been, they're going to take advantage of it. There's no doubt about it.
Yes.
I just think the nerve aspect of playing in the Dome for the first time could be what causes Ridgeland to make those mistakes. But we'll see what happens.
It's quite possible. And, of course, I'd take the flip side on things. 2 weeks ago, we thought no team in the free world could come close to Calhoun, and Calhoun almost lost in the semifinals to Lamar County after the beatdown they gave Brooks. Sandy Creek just absolutely beat Monroe area like there was no tomorrow. I'm not so sure Sandy Creek didn't just play their best game of the season. Ridgeland still got one left. I say it comes Saturday at the Dome. I say we have 2 state champions.
I hope you're right. I don't say that very often, but I hope you're right.
I definitely hope so, too. On Friday, no football for us on Friday. We got nothing. All of our Friday, they're done. On Saturday, we'll have coverage from Calhoun. We'll have coverage from Ridgeland, live scoring updates from the Dome. Gridiron Central wrap-up show next Monday. Not on Wednesday, but next Monday. Trying to get everything out of the way because guess what? The holiday basketball tournament starts next week. We will have live streaming from games from Berry Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of next week. Gridiron Central wraps up on Monday. We'll wrap everything up, take a look back, look at what happened in the Dome, and a look ahead. I'm going to go ahead and end the show. We're going to have highlights from Ridgeland after my ending. After that, the show will be done. But we'll see you on Saturday at the Georgia Dome.
hadn't sank in yet. I don't know. I've never been there. These guys never been there. But I know I wouldn't go with the Dome with any other team except this one.
Gridiron Central is sponsored by Georgia Northwestern Technical College, Riverside Automotive Group,